A young cleaning lady was singing to herself while she worked. She didn't know that the millionaire CEO was in the building, watching every note. What he did next surprised everyone, including her. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Evelyn Barnes, age 34, had never imagined that her soft humming in the silent corridors could carry such significance. Every evening, around 8 o'clock, she slipped into her familiar cleaning routine at the 15th floor of Arcadia Tower, an imposing corporate building in downtown Chicago. Evelyn's brown hair was usually tied back in a simple bun to keep it out of her face. Her uniform, plain navy blue pants, matching polo shirt and sturdy work shoes, gave her a modest appearance, which blended easily into the background. Yet, beneath that unassuming exterior lingered a deep yearning she had nurtured since childhood. That evening, the corridor lights offered a subdued glow. Rows of tall windows overlooked the city streets far below, where the swirl of car headlights looked like fireflies. With her pushcart of cleaning supplies, Evelyn started dusting the glass panels outside the executive meeting room. It had been a tiring day, but she needed to stay alert until her shift ended past midnight. As she worked, she began to hum a tune she remembered from her teenage years, an old pop ballad often played on classic radio stations. At first, it was just a soft whisper under her breath, something to ease her fatigue. She glanced around. The polished floor, the sophisticated artwork on the walls, and the occasional flicker of fluorescent lights reminded her that these corridors were part of a world she didn't quite belong to. Most employees had already gone home. The vast space felt almost deserted. With a cautious sigh, Evelyn let her voice grow a little bolder. Her gentle melody echoed quietly, filling the silent hallway with a delicate warmth. Without realizing it, she had a listener. Michael Reed, the 42-year-old CEO of the company, stood partially concealed in the shadows near the door of a small conference room. Tall and composed, with a bit of grey at his temples, he was known for his meticulous nature and understated style. He had just ended an informal meeting with 2 department heads. While the others headed to the elevator, Michael lingered, drawn by the faint sound of a voice carrying through the corridor. Initially, he thought it might be an office radio left on dose, but soon recognized it was a live human voice, soft, clear, and tinged with an unexpected emotion. As Evelyn's song continued, Michael found himself strangely moved. He was accustomed to thinking in numbers and strategic charts, rarely letting himself be swayed by anything beyond corporate responsibilities. However, that night, her voice awakened an unexpected nostalgia. He stood still, nearly holding his breath. It wasn't the flawless technique of a professional singer, but it held a sincerity that stirred something within him. He leaned closer to the doorframe, listening in silence as she sang lines of a ballad that spoke of hope in the face of life's trials. Evelyn finished the verse, then paused to check her watch, quickly returning to her chores with the vacuum. She had no idea anyone could be around at that hour, or that someone might be listening so intently. She assumed the entire floor was empty, as it often was when she worked overtime. The moment felt oddly private and safe, allowing her to unburden small pieces of her soul through melody. Michael, carefully stepping back, resisted the urge to reveal himself. He wondered how a cleaning staff member, invisible to most eyes, possessed a voice that echoed with both longing and resilience. Silently, he walked away, carrying an unspoken curiosity that refused to settle. He couldn't recall the last time he felt so captivated by something outside the realm of work. Evelyn, finishing her shift, turned off the hallway lights before stepping into the service elevator. Though she assumed no one had heard her, she felt a glimmer of comfort. Singing, even if only for herself, seemed to wipe away the monotony of every day. Unbeknownst to her, that simple act had already set in motion forces that would alter her path. Forces quietly awakened in the mind of a man who rarely ventured beyond calculations and cold facts. Early the next evening, rumors buzzed among the night staff as Evelyn arrived at the maintenance room in the building's basement. Donna Martin, 50 years old and built with a broad frame and an even broader heart, was busy sorting cleaning supplies when Evelyn walked in. Donna gave her a curious glance. "You hear the talk going around?" she asked, lowering her voice. "Folks say Michael Reed was spotted on the 15th floor late last night. People think it's odd because he never goes up there at that hour." Evelyn shrugged, placing her small backpack on a wooden bench. Michael Reed, the CEO. She tried to sound casual, though the mention of his name made her heart flutter for reasons she didn't fully understand. "Probably just checking on something," she added quietly. Donna handed her a spray bottle and a fresh mop head, eyes brimming with curiosity. "He's a busy man, Evelyn. Doesn't usually roam around after standard hours. Something or someone might have caught his attention." Flustered by her friend's pointed look, Evelyn quickly changed the subject. Yet as she stepped into the service elevator to begin her shift, the thought lingered. Could Michael Reed really have been there while she was singing? A small knot of both worry and wonder tightened in her chest. She couldn't afford any trouble at work. Still, part of her felt an odd thrill at the idea that someone, especially the CEO, might have noticed her voice. Midway through her shift, she passed by Gerard Collins, 55 years old and head of the nighttime security detail. Tall and steady, with the posture of the retired police officer he once was, Gerard gave her a polite nod. "Evening, Evelyn," he said. "Hope the rumors aren't making you nervous. Word around is that Reed's been patrolling at odd times. Some folks think he might be looking to cut costs." That possibility worried Evelyn. Losing her job was the last thing she needed. She kept her head down as she vacuumed the plush-carpeted halls. "I'll just do my work like always," she replied softly. "If he's checking on cleaning standards, I'll pass muster." In the corridor outside the executive lounge, Evelyn glimpsed Michael Reed at a distance, talking quietly with two suited employees. The overhead lights gave his short, slightly graying hair a silver sheen. For a moment, her eyes met his. She thought she noticed a subtle flicker of recognition in his gaze, but it vanished just as quickly as it appeared. He turned away, continuing his conversation without missing a beat. A wave of self-consciousness swept over her. She hurried to a quieter area near the restrooms, focusing on disinfecting door handles and wiping mirrors. Outside, she could hear distant chatter as staff speculated about corporate changes. She tried to block out the noise and the possibility that Michael might be on an inspection spree, but in the back of her mind, she couldn't forget that fleeting glance. Could he have recognized her as the woman who'd been singing last night, or was she simply imagining significance where there was none? Absorbed in these thoughts, she nearly dropped her cleaning rag when Donna came up behind her. "Hey, watch out, honey," Donna said warmly. "You look a bit distracted. Trust me, if Michael's around more often, it might be for reasons we can't guess." Her tone was encouraging, as if trying to nudge Evelyn to be hopeful rather than fearful. Still unsure, Evelyn forced a small laugh, grateful for Donna's presence. "I guess I'll just keep my head down. Don't want to get caught up in any drama." But as the whispers traveled through the corridors, Evelyn realized that staying invisible might no longer be as easy as before. Little did she know that a single moment of song could have such ripple effects in a place driven by budgets and bottom lines. Evelyn began her shift the next night with the intent to remain absolutely silent. The possibility that higher-ups were roaming the halls left her uneasy. She walked purposefully to the supply closet on the 14th floor, hoping to avoid the area where Michael Reed might appear. If she refrained from singing, she reasoned, no one would have a reason to question her presence. Yet, the absence of her own soft melodies made her tasks feel heavier. A short while later, she passed Donna in the hallway. "You all right, Evelyn?" Donna asked with concern. "Haven't heard you humming tonight." Evelyn plastered on a polite smile, her shoulders tense. "Just tired, I guess. Don't want to bother anyone." Donna's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You're worried about losing your job. I get it. But your singing never bothered anyone. It brightened things. Don't hide yourself because of a rumor." Evelyn felt a twinge of guilt. She remembered how humming a tune often made the long shift feel less grueling, but uncertainty clung to her like static. She feared attracting more attention, especially the CEO's. What if he'd taken offense? Or worse, what if her singing was considered unprofessional? Cleaning the emptier offices past 9, she noticed her own reflection in the glass doors. She saw the fatigue under her brown eyes and wondered how she'd let this job define her sense of worth. Though she had once dreamt of a future on stage, reality had cornered her into quieter pursuits. Music had become a private solace. The dream of ever singing publicly again felt too far-fetched. Midway through vacuuming, Gerard crossed her path. He paused, seeming to notice her subdued demeanor. "Strange not hearing you sing, Evelyn," he commented gently. "To be honest, it was one of the highlights of my shift." She pressed her lips into a tight smile. "I'm just not in the mood tonight, Gerard." Maybe it was a lie, but she feared any scrutiny that could cost her the stability she so desperately needed. Turning down a corridor, Evelyn glimpsed Michael Reed stepping out of a conference room. He didn't notice her at first. She ducked into a small lounge area, heart pounding. From her vantage point, she saw him pause, as if listening for something in the quiet. After a moment, he continued on, leaving her hidden behind a row of vending machines. She couldn't decide which was worse, that he might find her, or that he might not care at all. Moments later, alone in the staff break room, Evelyn sank into a metal chair. The overhead fluorescent light buzzed, emphasizing the emptiness around her. She stared at her reflection in the polished tabletop, recalling how the simple act of singing the other night had felt liberating. Now fear overshadowed that sense of freedom. It upset her more than she cared to admit. She reached for her phone and saw a missed call from Donna. Probably more encouragement, Evelyn thought. But not even Donna's warm words could quell the anxiety swirling inside her. She set the phone aside and buried her face in her hands for a moment, fighting off tears. Why did something she loved so much suddenly feel like a liability? Eventually, she squared her shoulders and resumed her rounds. She collected trash bins, replaced liners, and wiped desks in total silence. Each squeak of her shoes against the floor reminded her that she could no longer hide behind her own gentle tunes. The oppressive hush only magnified the tension in her heart. By the end of her shift, she remained resolved not to sing, at least until she felt safe again. Yet a gnawing emptiness replaced the small joy she'd once found. As she stepped into the elevator, she realized that silence could be as heavy as fear itself. All the while, Michael Reed's distant figure lingered in her thoughts like a question left unanswered. The following week, the long corridors and silent offices started wearing down Evelyn more than ever. Each push of the broom felt weighted by her uncertainty. Although she'd stifled her singing, she couldn't shake the sense that she was losing a part of herself. She found moments to whisper a tune under her breath when she was absolutely certain no one could hear, usually in the far back stairwell, where only emergency lights cast faint shadows. One afternoon, before clocking in for her evening shift, she sipped lukewarm coffee in the tiny kitchenette at home. Bills were scattered on the table, but none of them named a crisis she couldn't handle. Her real crisis was deeper, an unspoken ache that surfaced whenever she caught a memory of how alive she felt when singing. She recalled old childhood recitals, times she sang for her mother in their modest living room in Ohio. How proud her mother's eyes had seemed then. The memory both warmed and pained her. She wondered if she had let her younger self down. At the office, Donna approached her with a timid smile. "You looked sad the other day, so I did some asking around. Turns out there's a community choir about to start rehearsals next month. Maybe you'd want to join." Evelyn's heart fluttered. She placed a stack of microfiber cloths on her cart. "A community choir, huh?" she echoed. Despite her intrigue, an immediate wave of reluctance flooded her. "But I work nights, and I'm no professional. Not sure I'd fit in." Donna's tone remained gentle but insistent. "Listen, if you're suffocating your talent, you're only hurting yourself. I get it, you're worried about your job, but think about it. You deserve something that makes you happy." Evelyn bit her lip. The idea both thrilled and scared her. For the rest of her shift, she mulled it over, her mind drifting between her responsibilities and the faint hope of feeling that spark again. Work went slowly. Polishing windows on the 14th floor, she spotted Michael Reed in a corner office. A pair of co-workers gossiped that he was dealing with a new corporate directive to reduce overhead costs. Anxiety flickered through her as she remembered the rumor that the cleaning staff might be affected. Later, as she emptied trash bins near the reception area, Gerard caught up with her. "Word is," he said softly, "the board's pushing Michael to trim budgets. Could be layoffs, Evelyn. I don't want to alarm you, but you should be aware." Her hand tightened around the trash bag. "You think the cleaning team is at risk?" Gerard's gaze was sympathetic. "I wish I could say no, but corporate always tries to cut where they think it won't hurt the bottom line. Just stay strong." His words haunted her as she made her way to the next floor. She felt torn between wanting to keep a low profile and longing to reclaim the small joy of singing. The notion of possibly losing her job both frightened and unsettled her. She needed every paycheck to stay afloat. Yet, the more she buried her singing, the more stifled she felt. How long could she continue living this way? In the hush of an empty meeting room, she paused by the large windows to watch the city skyline. The neon signs and distant traffic lights flickered in a gentle haze. She imagined herself singing in a choir, voices blending into harmonies that soared. The thought stirred a subtle longing that made her heart ache. A strange blend of resignation and restlessness filled her as she resumed cleaning, her footsteps echoing on the polished floor. She realized the more she kept silent, the heavier her spirit became, and the threat of layoffs only added to the pressure. If she were forced to leave anyway, why not risk being heard while she still could? But the night wore on without any decisions made. By the time she finished, she was too exhausted to do more than drag herself home. Quietly, she slipped onto the late-night bus, sinking into a window seat. The city lights blurred past, reflecting off her tired eyes. Maybe she couldn't remain silent forever, but she still wasn't sure how to break free from the fear holding her back. Evelyn stepped off the elevator onto the 15th floor, heart thudding against her ribs. She could still sense the tension in the air, whispers of budget cuts, uncertain glances from colleagues. Yet something in her had shifted. She was tired of letting worry dictate her every move. Clutching a folded piece of paper in her pocket, a flyer about the community choir Donna had mentioned, she took a slow, steady breath. Perhaps it was time to reclaim a piece of herself, even if she had to do it quietly. That evening, as she wiped down countertops and vacuumed the plush corridor, she caught herself humming. At first, it was involuntary, a simple melody that slipped out when her mind wandered. She froze momentarily, bracing for any sign of disapproval, but none came. The hallway was empty, the offices locked, the air felt welcoming, almost encouraging. She allowed herself a soft refrain, the tune of an old ballad she adored since high school. The gentle sound wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. Fear lingered, but the warmth of the melody bolstered her. It reminded her of who she was before dread and responsibility buried her dreams. Mid-song, she turned the corner and nearly collided with Michael Reed. He stood there, clearly having paused to listen. She yelped in surprise, quickly muffling her voice, face flushing with embarrassment. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she wondered if she had just handed him a reason to reprimand her. Michael looked equally startled, although his expression softened almost at once. "I'm sorry," he said, voice calm but earnest. "I didn't mean to frighten you." Evelyn fumbled with the handle of her cleaning cart. "No, it's okay. I wasn't expecting anyone." She couldn't quite meet his eyes, remembering how carefully she'd avoided being seen. He hesitated for a moment, glancing at the vacuum and the dusting cloths on her cart. "You have a lovely voice," he offered, clearing his throat. "I've heard it before, in the hallway. I was hoping we could talk sometime." Her cheeks grew hot. Part of her wanted to vanish. Another part felt a surge of validation. "Talk? About my singing?" "Yes," Michael replied. A hint of a smile curved at the corner of his lips. "Nothing formal right now. Perhaps we could find a better moment. I just want you to know it's remarkable." She realized her hands were trembling. Was this how she got fired, or was he actually complimenting her? Before she could form a coherent response, Michael gave a polite nod and stepped aside to let her pass. "We can schedule a conversation," he said, "whenever you're comfortable." Evelyn nodded mutely, pushing her cart forward. Her mind whirled, replaying the brief exchange. Did the CEO of the company truly want to discuss her singing? Once the immediate shock dissipated, a slender thread of hope began weaving through her thoughts. Later, in the staff lounge, she sat on a worn plastic chair, replaying every word he'd said. Michael didn't seem upset. He seemed intrigued. Donna noticed Evelyn's restless expression and approached. "Everything okay? You look like you just saw a ghost." Evelyn managed a shaky grin. "I practically did. Michael Reed caught me singing and wants to talk about it." Donna's mouth fell open in exaggerated delight. "Well, I'll be darned. Maybe he admires your talent. Don't freak out, hun. This could be good." Evelyn laughed nervously, though excitement flickered beneath her apprehension. For the first time in weeks, she felt something shift from dread to possibility. Perhaps the man whose rumored presence had caused her to silence herself would now be the catalyst for something she never dared dream about. As her shift neared its end, Evelyn walked past the same spot where she had met Michael. She paused briefly, remembering his voice, the unexpected kindness in his eyes. Whatever awaited her next, whether a reprimand or an opportunity, she found a spark of courage she hadn't felt in a very long time. A Tuesday evening settled over Chicago, and Evelyn Barnes found herself in a surprisingly reflective mood as she started her shift. The conversation with Michael the night before still played over in her mind. He had seemed genuine when he complimented her voice, yet she couldn't shake the nagging thought that perhaps she was reading too much into his words. She yearned for a clearer sense of direction. Donna Martin, her 50-year-old supervisor with a kindly but no-nonsense demeanor, seemed to sense Evelyn's hesitation. They were in the maintenance room, restocking cleaning supplies, when Donna patted the younger woman on the shoulder. "Come on over here," she said, taking a seat on a low stool. "You've got something brewing in that head of yours. Spill it." Evelyn set aside a stack of microfiber cloths and lowered herself onto a wooden crate. She blew out a breath, her eyes downcast. "It's just, Michael Reed wants to talk to me about my singing. The other night, he heard me in the corridor and told me it was, well, remarkable." She fidgeted, recalling the unexpected warmth in his voice. He mentioned scheduling a real conversation. Donna's eyebrows rose. He asked you to sing, or maybe to audition for something. She paused, then shook her head gently. Well, what's clear is that he sees something special in you, sweetie. Don't go doubting yourself. Sure, but I'm still terrified, Evelyn admitted. I've never spoken to anyone higher up like that. The idea of singing anywhere but an empty hallway it's intimidating. And there's that talk of layoffs hanging over everyone. I don't want special treatment or to be singled out. Donna leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Let me tell you something from my own life. I had a dream once, wanted to be a dancer in my 20s, but I kept talking myself out of it. Didn't think I was good enough or that I had the right to stand on a stage. So I let it go. Now I look back and wonder if I could have been happier dancing, even if just for a while. Evelyn felt a pang of empathy. She'd never heard this side of Donna's story. I had no idea, she said softly. Donna shrugged, a bit of sadness lining her face. We all have hidden pieces of ourselves. My point is, if there's a door cracking open, maybe you should step through. Even if you're scared, it's better than living with regrets. Evelyn nodded, absorbing her mentor's words. She'd always admired Donna's practicality, but tonight she saw a layer of hope beneath it. As a wave of determination welled up inside her, she dared to imagine a new future, one where her voice was more than just a private comfort. They wrapped up the rest of their tasks in near silence. Later, while pushing her cleaning cart along the 15th floor corridor, Evelyn glanced at the schedule on her phone. She noticed a new email from an HR account she didn't usually receive notices from. Her stomach fluttered, worried it might be news of a departmental cut. Taking a deep breath, she opened it, a polite request for her to come by the HR office the next afternoon. It mentioned discussing possible opportunities related to her creative talent. She blinked at the message, a swirl of excitement and trepidation unfolding simultaneously. Could Michael have arranged something? She recalled his suggestion that they speak privately, but hadn't expected HR to step in so soon. Her mind raced with possibilities, none of which felt entirely real. Pausing by a large picture window overlooking the busy nighttime streets below, Evelyn tried to calm the riot of thoughts in her head. Donna's advice echoed, if a door is cracking open, dare to walk through it. Gathering her nerves, she told herself that whatever HR wanted, she would at least hear them out. Maybe it was a chance to audition for an upcoming corporate function, or maybe Michael simply wanted to showcase employee talent for some event. Finishing her shift, Evelyn packed up her supplies and headed to the staff lounge, where she found Donna sipping chamomile tea. She told her about the HR email. Donna's face lit up. You see, doors are opening. Don't be afraid to walk through. With those parting words, Evelyn felt more convinced than ever that she needed to do just that, open herself to the unknown. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she could almost hear the faint strains of a familiar melody urging her forward. The next day, Evelyn arrived at the building unusually early. Her heart drummed as she rode the elevator not to the basement or service floors, but to one of the upper levels where human resources kept their offices. It felt surreal, stepping off into a clean, modern hallway adorned with motivational posters and potted plants. She couldn't help feeling like an outsider, wearing her standard cleaning uniform in a space typically occupied by suit-clad professionals. She found herself in a small waiting area with sleek leather chairs. Sitting down, she tried to recall the last time she'd been this nervous, probably never. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, revealing a text message from her Aunt Caroline, a vibrant woman in her mid-60s who lived in Cleveland. Evelyn had confided in her aunt just last night about the unexpected developments. The text read, Don't let fear rob you of this chance, sweetheart. You've always had a gift. Let it shine. She smiled at the words, drawing courage from the memory of Aunt Caroline singing show tunes around the house during summer visits. Evelyn typed a quick thanks and slipped the phone back into her pocket, feeling just a bit braver. Soon, a friendly woman with neatly cropped hair emerged from a nearby doorway. "Evelyn Barnes," she asked. "I'm Rebecca James from HR." "Please come on in." Evelyn stood, her knees wobbly, and followed Rebecca into a glass-walled office. Everything gleamed with modern efficiency. Desks with integrated screens, comfortable swivel chairs, and windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. She momentarily felt like a child who had stepped into a grown-up's realm. Rebecca motioned for Evelyn to sit. "Thank you for coming," she began, her tone warm yet professional. "Mr. Reed approached me about creating opportunities for employees to share hidden talents at our next corporate event. It's still in the planning stages, but he specifically mentioned your singing." Evelyn swallowed, her cheeks growing hot. He did." Rebecca nodded, lips curving into a smile. "He was quite complimentary, said he'd overheard you and found your voice compelling. We're organizing an internal showcase, an employee talent segment, if you will, and we'd love for you to perform. Of course, there are some details to iron out, but I wanted to gauge your interest before we proceed." A swirl of relief and anxiety danced inside Evelyn. She had feared layoffs and harsh evaluations, yet here she was, getting invited to perform. It felt surreal. "I'm definitely interested," she managed, voice trembling slightly. I've never performed outside of my high school choir, and I'm worried about how others might react." Rebecca leaned forward, elbows resting on her desk. "We'll handle logistics. If you're open to it, we can help with rehearsals, maybe even provide a bit of coaching. This could be a great opportunity for you and for the company culture, showcasing real stories among our workforce." Evelyn glanced at her uniform, the keys and cleaning rags in her pockets, a reminder of her humble role. "I'll do my best," she said softly. The notion of stepping onto a stage, however modest, made her pulse quicken. Rebecca smiled again, then handed Evelyn a folder containing preliminary details. "No pressure, but consider this your formal invitation. Think it over and let me know if you have any concerns. We're still finalizing the event date, likely a month from now. That should give you time to prepare." Walking out of HR, Evelyn's head spun with possibility. She gripped the folder close to her chest as she re-entered the elevator. For the first time, she chose the main elevator bank, the one used by executives and office staff, instead of slipping to the service lift. It felt like a symbolic step. She was, in some small way, embracing a new role in this corporate environment. By the time she reported for her usual shift that evening, a quiet determination guided her movements. She told Donna about the offer, to which Donna responded with an elated squeal, nearly tackling Evelyn in a hug. "I told you there's more for you out there," Donna exclaimed, eyes shining with pride. Yet beneath the excitement lingered a flicker of apprehension. The comfort zone she had clung to, her routine of cleaning, humming unnoticed, staying safely in the shadows, was slowly dissolving. What awaited her beyond that familiar space? Evelyn couldn't say for sure, but a subtle undercurrent of courage coursed through her veins now, nudging her to embrace a world she hadn't dared to imagine. The following week, Evelyn stood outside Michael Reed's office on the top floor, her heart fluttering like a leaf in a brisk wind. The HR invitation was one thing, but a personal conversation with the CEO about her singing felt like stepping onto a roller coaster she never knew she'd boarded. When his assistant ushered her in, Evelyn was struck by the expansive view from the floor-to-ceiling windows. The lights of Chicago's skyline stretched out, a tapestry of twinkling buildings against the evening sky. Michael's office was modern yet understated, with tasteful decor that hinted at a preference for minimalism. A large abstract painting hung on one wall, and a sleek glass desk stood near the windows. Michael rose from behind the desk, greeting her with a polite nod. He looked as composed as ever, tall, with a quiet authority. "Evelyn," he said, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "Thank you for coming." She settled into the seat, trying to steady her breathing. "Thank you for inviting me." He sat down as well, folding his hands on the glass surface. "I'm sure Rebecca explained some of our plans," he began. "I'd like to hear your thoughts, though, from your perspective. Are you comfortable performing at the company event?" Evelyn hesitated for half a beat, then nodded. "I'm a bit nervous, honestly, but I'm willing to try. It's been a long time since I sang in front of anyone besides, well, these empty hallways." Michael's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "Your voice struck me, Evelyn," he said. "We spend so much time here buried in spreadsheets, revenue forecasts, and never-ending meetings. When I heard you sing, it was like a reminder of something more human. I think the company could use that." She felt her cheeks warm. "I never meant for anyone to hear me. It was just my own way of coping." He leaned back slightly, arms resting on the chair's armrests. "Sometimes what we do in private turns out to be our greatest gift to others." He paused, letting the words settle. "I also want to ask if there's anything you need. Voice coaching, maybe time for rehearsals. We're open to supporting you. I realize this is outside your normal job responsibilities." Evelyn exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing just a bit. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. Please," he interjected gently, "call me Michael." She offered a small, appreciative smile. "Michael, thank you. It would help, maybe, to have some guidance. I'm not sure how these events usually go. This is new." He nodded. "I'll have Rebecca coordinate a short session or two with a vocal coach if you're willing. Think of it as an investment in our team members. We invest in professional development. Why not creative development as well?" She glanced around the office again, noticing a photo frame on a side table. The picture showed Michael in a younger, more casual stance, holding a guitar alongside a couple of friends. The sight sent a flicker of curiosity through her. Had he once been connected to music too? As if he read her mind, Michael followed her gaze. "That was taken years ago," he said with a quiet chuckle. "Just a small band in college. I haven't touched a guitar in ages." Something about the confession made her smile. He wasn't simply a polished CEO. There was a thread of shared passion there, buried beneath the corporate veneer. A few minutes later, she stood to leave, feeling both lighter and more significant than when she'd arrived. Michael walked her to the door, his voice taking on a gentle, encouraging note. "Thank you for being open to this. I really believe it can bring a unique energy to our company. And Evelyn, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions." She murmured her thanks, stepping out into the corridor. The door quietly closed behind her, and as she glanced at the polished nameplate, Michael Reed, Chief Executive Officer, she realized that she'd just gotten a glimpse into a world that had once felt sealed off. Perhaps the greatest discovery was that behind those imposing doors, not everything was as cold or unreachable as she'd imagined. Evelyn's first practice session in the company's auditorium took place under the glowing overhead lights on a Friday evening. The room, typically used for major presentations, felt foreign to her. Rows of cushioned seats faced a small stage where a microphone stand and speakers had been set up. She gulped upon stepping onto that stage for the first time, scanning the space that could hold over 100 people. Vanessa Cobb, 35, was the corporate event coordinator, tasked with organizing the upcoming showcase. Slim, with neatly styled hair and a crisp blazer, Vanessa had an air of efficiency about her. She waved Evelyn over, barely looking up from a clipboard. "Let's try a quick sound check," she said, flipping through a list of instructions. Evelyn approached the microphone, hands clammy. She cleared her throat and introduced herself quietly, her voice echoing just slightly. The sensation of her words, magnified by the sound system, made her shift on her feet. Anxious energy prickled at the back of her neck. Vanessa barely gave her a moment to relax. "Sing a few lines," she ordered. "I need to gauge your vocal volume." Evelyn glanced around, spotting no more than a handful of staff scattered in the back rows, including a couple of audio technicians. She recalled a classic American ballad from the 1980s, something that once played on the radio during her teenage years, and mustered the courage to sing. The opening lines came out shaky, but improved as she let her voice flow. The auditorium's acoustics were good, amplifying the gentle richness of her tone. She closed her eyes, focusing on the melody, determined not to let nervousness strangle her. Moments later, she ended on a sustained note, breath trembling. A smattering of applause came from the handful of onlookers, though Vanessa simply tapped her pen against the clipboard. "We'll need to adjust the mic height," she remarked, "but that's workable." "All right, Evelyn, you can step down for now." Trying not to feel dismissed, Evelyn hopped off the low stage and took a seat in the front row. She noticed that Michael Reed had quietly entered the back of the auditorium. She offered him a hesitant smile, and he responded with a discreet nod of approval. When the session ended, Vanessa approached with a cooler tone. "I suppose that was fine for a first run, but we'll want to tighten things up before the event," she remarked. "We don't want it to feel amateurish. I trust you'll practice." Evelyn swallowed, uncertain how to read the woman's bluntness. "Absolutely," she answered. "I'm committed to giving my best." Vanessa pursed her lips, then left with the same brisk efficiency. As Evelyn watched her go, she felt an odd mix of intimidation and motivation. Maybe the corporate world demanded that kind of perfection, a standard she wasn't used to. Moments later, Michael approached. "How did it feel?" he asked, his voice low. She managed a small grin, exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. "But I'm glad I did it." He seemed pleased. "Vanessa's detail-oriented," he commented. "Don't let her style discourage you. She's actually quite supportive once she sees commitment." "Just keep practicing." She nodded, exhaling the tension in her chest. "I will. I promise." As they left the auditorium, employees in passing whispered about how the CEO was personally checking on a rehearsal. Some seemed curious, others wary. Evelyn felt the sting of self-consciousness, but forced herself to stand a little taller. Later that night, after clocking in for her cleaning shift, she recounted the practice session to Donna in the basement supply room. Donna's eyes lit up with encouragement. "You're doing it, hun. You're taking that step." Evelyn tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear and grabbed the broom with renewed resolve. "It's strange, being in that auditorium, hearing my own voice amplified, but it felt right, somehow, like I was meant to do more than just sing in empty hallways." She looked at the clock, mindful of the tasks waiting for her. Yet a flutter of excitement danced inside. The threshold to a new world was no longer just an idea. She was stepping across it, one verse at a time. 2 weeks before the big corporate event, Evelyn found herself in the staff lounge sharing a simple breakfast of coffee and a bagel with Lucas Turner, a 28-year-old administrative assistant she'd met in passing. Lucas Turt's, wiry and energetic, had approached her the night before, congratulating her on stepping into the spotlight. Now, as they chatted under the lounge's bright fluorescent lights, Evelyn sensed the warmth of genuine support. Lucas confessed he'd grown up in a rougher part of the city, with parents who couldn't afford college. He'd worked his way up from a mailroom position to an admin role. "So I totally get it," he said. sipping black coffee. "Sometimes you worry you don't belong in these slick hallways. But we do, in our own ways." Evelyn offered him a grateful smile. "Thank you. Having people like you and Donna cheering me on makes the pressure easier to handle." She soon discovered there were others rooting for her as well. Rebecca James from HR had been sending her helpful links to vocal exercises. A few mid-level managers dropped polite messages of support in her inbox, remarking that they admired her courage. Even some executives seemed intrigued, though not all were enthusiastic. Harold Zimmerman, the firm's austere 50-year-old financial director, barely masked his skepticism about whether a janitorial staff member deserved a performance slot. That afternoon, Evelyn had a brief second rehearsal in the auditorium. This time, though, the small group of watchers included a handful of mid-tier executives along with the event coordinator, Vanessa. Evelyn started singing, her nerves gradually easing as she gained confidence in her voice. When she finished, most of the onlookers clapped politely, even if Harold gave only a curt nod. Afterward, Lucas approached her backstage, offering a fist bump. "You sounded great. Can't wait to see you bring the house down at the actual event." Moments later, Michael Reed stepped forward, politely waiting until Lucas had moved aside. "You've come a long way in just a couple of weeks," he noted, a note of admiration evident in his eyes. "Keep building that confidence." "You'll be ready." Evelyn's heart fluttered at the implicit praise. She was getting used to these brief, encouraging exchanges with Michael, exchanges that left her simultaneously motivated and a little flustered. That evening, as she prepared for her usual cleaning duties, she returned to the basement, where Donna and Gerard Collins were waiting with wide smiles. Gerard, the watchful head of security at 55, nodded in approval. "Heard you belting it out upstairs," he teased. "This building's never seen so much excitement over an internal event. Keep it up. You're making waves." Flushed with appreciation, Evelyn thanked them. The day had reminded her that she wasn't alone in this strange journey. She had allies, people who believed in her potential, each offering something valuable to keep her going. In quiet moments, she began to imagine a future where her voice wasn't just a hidden spark, but a guiding light. The possibility both thrilled and scared her. These new connections, Lucas's friendship, Rebecca's resources, Donna's maternal pride, and Michael's supportive presence, served as scaffolding for her budding sense of belonging. Still, the corporate environment had a pulse of its own. Rumors brewed that top-level directors questioned the budget for certain aspects of the event, especially the performance lineup. Evelyn overheard hush-hush chatter that some believed only professionals should perform at corporate showcases. She tried not to dwell on the negativity, but couldn't fully block the sting of their words. As the night wore on, Evelyn found herself in a small break area, finishing her last coffee of the shift. She remembered something her late mother used to say, "When you follow your calling, the right people walk beside you." She hadn't always understood it, until now, when supportive individuals seemed to materialize right when she needed them. Standing up, she discarded her empty cup and glanced at the digital clock on the wall. Another day of practice and cleaning ended, but a sense of purposeful momentum continued to build. Gathering her supplies, she reminded herself that no negative rumor could overshadow the newfound camaraderie she had discovered within these halls. The week of the event arrived with a mix of excitement and tension. Evelyn could practically feel the buzz whenever she walked through the halls. Posters hung in the lobby announcing the upcoming company showcase, featuring a variety of staff-led presentations, and yes, a musical segment. People stopped her to wish her luck, or in some cases, to see what the fuss was about, but not everyone was supportive. On a chilly Wednesday afternoon, a formal meeting of the corporate board convened to finalize event details. Voices echoed in the large conference room as department heads, including Harold Zimmerman, debated the costs and benefits of the showcase. A rumor quickly spread. The financial department wanted to eliminate any unnecessary performances, including Evelyn's. They questioned whether it was worth dedicating company time and resources for an internal amateur. Standing outside the closed doors, holding a stack of freshly laundered tablecloths she was tasked to deliver, Evelyn couldn't help overhearing snatches of heated conversation. Words like budget, image, and distraction floated through the crack in the doorway. Her throat tightened. She didn't want to eavesdrop, but she couldn't move, glued in place by anxiety. One voice pierced through, sharp and unmistakable, Harold Zimmerman's. "She's a cleaning staff member, not a hired performer. We should keep things professional. Our clients and stakeholders expect a certain standard from us." Another voice, Michael Reed's, cut in calmly. "This event is about showcasing the human side of our organization. Evelyn's performance aligns with that goal. Her talent is genuine." Harold sounded exasperated. "We're not running a charity concert, Michael. We're a corporation. Employees can have hobbies, but that doesn't mean we turn them into headliners. If word gets around that the CEO is bending rules to promote a personal interest, it'll raise eyebrows." Evelyn's cheeks burned at the insinuation. Was that what people thought, that Michael was playing favorites for personal reasons? She edged away, her heart pounding. The conversation inside continued, but she'd heard enough to know that her opportunity hung by a precarious thread. Moments later, the meeting adjourned. The doors swung open and board members filed out. Harold walked right past her without acknowledgement, while others offered guarded smiles or neutral nods. Michael emerged last, looking tense. When his gaze met Evelyn's, he paused, a flicker of regret crossing his features. She wasn't sure whether to speak. He sighed quietly, stepping closer so they wouldn't be overheard. "I'm sorry you had to hear any of that. It's complicated. There's resistance from some board members who question the direction of the event." Evelyn hugged the stack of tablecloths closer to her chest, trying to hide how much the discussion had rattled her. "I understand," she whispered. "I just don't want to cause problems for anyone." Michael pressed his lips together in a thin line. "You're not. This is about the company's culture, but certain people don't see it that way." He glanced down the corridor, where Harold was disappearing around a corner. "They've decided you need to prove your capability formally, beyond just an internal sound check. A small audition of sorts, in front of a few senior executives to justify your place in the event." Her stomach sank. "An audition? This close to the showcase?" He gave a tight nod. "They want to ensure, quote, quality control. It's not fair, but if you agree, it might help silence the dissenting voices." Evelyn nodded slowly, her mind spinning. She was already due to perform soon. Why another test? Yet she saw no other path forward if she wanted to hold on to this fragile opportunity. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steadying as she spoke. "I can't walk away now." Michael seemed relieved, though he still looked troubled. "We'll schedule it as soon as possible. I'll be there to support you. This is just another hurdle, Evelyn. Don't let it stop you." She forced a faint smile. "I won't." But as she walked away, the confidence she'd been building began to waver. She'd known not everyone would understand her chance to sing. Still, being discussed like a budget line item cut deeper than she'd expected. Questions buzzed in her head. Could she prove her worth? Was she truly ready for all this scrutiny? Clutching the tablecloths, she hurried to finish her task, battling the sting of Harold's dismissive words. Above all, she resolved not to crumble beneath the pressure. One thing was certain, this opportunity was hers to defend, no matter who opposed it. The following Thursday afternoon, Evelyn stood in the same auditorium that had once felt so vast and intimidating. This time, though, the seats weren't mostly empty. 5 senior executives, including Harold Zimmerman, sat spaced out in the front row, poised with notepads. Michael Reed and Rebecca James hovered to one side, their expressions both encouraging and tense. Evelyn's heart pounded so loudly she imagined everyone could hear it. This audition had been arranged swiftly after that board meeting, leaving her just a couple of days to compose herself. She glanced at the microphone, took a breath, and nodded at the tech operator to start her chosen backing track. A stirring, slow-tempo ballad filled the auditorium, and Evelyn let her voice rise in tandem with the music. Her nerves threatened to derail her, but every time she recalled Harold's dismissive remarks, she found a small spark of defiance. She pushed through each note, letting her voice embody the quiet determination she carried in her heart. A hush descended over the small audience as she sang through the refrain. Moments later, the final chord faded, leaving an echo in the silent space. She stood there, chest heaving, uncertain how the onlookers would respond. Finally, Michael spoke up, his tone measured yet supportive. "Thank you, Evelyn. Could you please wait backstage while we discuss?" She exited, legs shaky. A small backstage area offered refuge, where Donna and Lucas had snuck in to show moral support. Donna greeted her with a silent hug, and Lucas gave her a thumbs up. "You nailed it," he whispered, beaming, "way better than they could have asked for." Evelyn tried to cling to his assurance, but doubt still gnawed. Was it enough to convince Harold and the others? A heavy 5 minutes crawled by before Michael appeared, face calm yet unreadable. He gestured for them to gather around. "They're divided," he said quietly, sparing Evelyn a gentle look. "Harold admits your voice is, quote, surprisingly competent for a non-professional, but he remains concerned about the image of letting a staff member perform. Others, however, found your performance genuinely moving." Evelyn's stomach twisted. "So, does that mean they'll let me sing at the showcase?" Michael exhaled. "They've agreed, conditionally. You're officially approved to perform, but it's vital that the presentation runs smoothly. If anything feels less than polished, Harold will use it to justify pulling back resources on these internal showcases." His gaze flickered to Evelyn's uncertain expression. "It's not fair, but for now, it's a victory." Donna let out a joyous squeak, hugging Evelyn so tightly it nearly knocked the air out of her. Lucas patted her shoulder, chanting a triumphant "Yes!" under his breath. Despite the tension, Evelyn felt a flood of relief. She'd passed a critical test, even if the approval came with caveats. Moments later, Rebecca James led Evelyn to a quieter corner. Her warm expression bore a hint of apology. "I'm sorry it had to be so formal, but you did wonderfully. Now we can finalize the schedule for the event." Evelyn managed a small laugh, her pulse slowly settling. "I just want to do well. No matter how many conditions they attach, this means a lot to me." Rebecca nodded. "From what I saw, you're more than ready. We'll make sure you have enough rehearsal time." Evelyn found a grateful smile lifting her cheeks. "Thank you for believing in me." That evening, as she resumed her regular cleaning shift, the sense of relief stayed with her like a gentle glow. Even the familiar corridors felt different, less oppressive, more like stepping stones to a dream that was no longer hidden. Donna and Gerard teased her in the break room, calling her our star. She rolled her eyes, laughing, but underneath, she knew this small triumph had reaffirmed her path. Yet the pressure remained. She recalled Michael's warning: if she stumbled, Harold would likely pull the plug on future performances. The idea weighed on her. She felt determined to carry her weight, not only for herself, but also for anyone who wanted to see talent and passion recognized in a corporate environment so often ruled by numbers. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her modest apartment. She pictured the stage, the spotlight, the hush of the audience just before she began to sing. In that moment, she realized that this trial was not merely about hitting the right notes. It was about standing firm in her self-belief, even when half the room questioned her very right to be there. With a slow, steady exhale, she let the day's tension drift away, wondering what fresh challenges tomorrow would bring. The next morning, Evelyn woke to an unshakable sense of unease. Memories from her teenage years bubbled up uninvited, specifically the memory of a high school talent show where she'd choked on stage. At 16, standing under garish spotlights in her school auditorium, she had stumbled on the high notes, and her classmates' laughter rang in her ears for days afterward. The experience had convinced her that performing publicly carried a terrible risk of ridicule. Now, as she prepped coffee in her small kitchen, those old feelings of inadequacy returned with force. She tried to brush them aside, but the recollection clung to her, persistent as a ghost. She forced a few sips of coffee, then made her way to her day's errands. She was due for a vocal coaching session later in the afternoon, courtesy of the company's arrangement. While part of her looked forward to professional guidance, another part feared that hidden flaws might be laid bare. Arriving at the makeshift rehearsal room on the 14th floor, she found Mariah Brooks, a friendly, 40-something vocal coach with a nurturing demeanor, waiting beside a portable keyboard. Mariah greeted Evelyn with a warm smile. "It's lovely to meet you," she said. "Michael and Rebecca told me you have something special. Let's see where we can polish, okay?" Evelyn's nerves pulsed, but Mariah's reassuring tone helped. They began with basic breathing exercises, then moved on to scales. Though the exercises felt mechanical, Evelyn recognized the immediate benefit. Her voice sounded clearer, more controlled. Mariah occasionally paused to give pointers on posture and pitch. After about 40 minutes, they took a break. Mariah handed Evelyn a bottle of water. "You have a beautiful, natural timbre," she remarked, "but I can sense some tension. Are you anxious?" Evelyn let out a short laugh. "That obvious, huh? I guess I am. Sometimes I worry I'm not cut out for this. I had a rough experience years ago." Mariah's eyes softened with understanding. "We all carry baggage from the past, but remember, you're not the same person you were back then, and every performer, professional or not, battles nerves. The key is using them to fuel your performance rather than sabotage it." As they resumed practice, Evelyn fought the flashes of her old failure. She tried to channel Mariah's advice, keep her body relaxed, center her breath, and allow the music to flow. Gradually, she felt a shift, a small but important one. The notes came easier, more confidently. It felt like letting go of the tension she'd been gripping for years. When the session concluded, Mariah offered a warm farewell and an invitation to return the next week. Evelyn left with her mind buzzing, torn between gratitude for the encouragement and the lingering ache of old insecurities. Before starting her cleaning shift, she dropped by the staff lounge. Donna cornered her quickly, asking, "How'd it go? The coaching, I mean?" Evelyn gave a tentative smile. "Good, I think. I learned a few techniques. But I still keep remembering that time in high school." Donna's eyes narrowed, sympathy evident. "Honey, we've all messed up at some point. That doesn't define your whole story. You're older, wiser, and trust me, your voice is something folks remember for the right reasons." The kind words soothed some of Evelyn's internal storm. But even as she worked through the evening, a faint undercurrent of doubt lingered. She found herself humming softly in deserted corridors, testing the techniques Mariah had given her. Occasionally, she paused, feeling a pang of fear. What if she messed up in front of an even larger audience now? The potential for embarrassment loomed larger than ever. Yet in the midst of her worry, she also felt a small, defiant flame. She realized that while the past still cast a long shadow, It didn't have to dictate her future. Each note she sang, whether in a practice room or a polished auditorium, was a step toward proving to herself that she could stand on a stage without shame. That night, as she took the late bus home, the city lights blurred around her. She stared at the reflection in the window, seeing a woman who was fighting to reclaim her voice. Maybe, Evelyn mused, that haunting memory from high school had stolen enough of her confidence already. It was time to sing over that old laughter, to drown it out with the strength of who she had become. Just when it seemed that everything was slowly falling into place, a new problem arose. A week before the scheduled showcase, an urgent memo circulated through the company. Budgets were being slashed for non-essential departments due to an unexpected dip in quarterly earnings. Anxiety rippled across every floor. Whispers of possible event cancellations reached Evelyn's ears in hushed conversations near the elevators. Late that afternoon, Michael Reed convened a rapid meeting with some of his department heads. Through the partially open door of a nearby conference room, Evelyn caught snippets, cost-saving measures, event scaling back, and finally, we might have to eliminate the musical portion. Her stomach twisted into a knot. As if on cue, Harold Zimmerman strode out of the meeting, his face composed but triumphant. When he spotted Evelyn standing near the corridor, he gave a curt nod. "Corporate priorities must come first," he said, barely hiding his satisfaction. "The board has the final say, of course, but it's likely the budget for the performance will be cut." Tears pricked at Evelyn's eyes, though she held her composure. After all her preparation, the audition, the coaching, the emotional hurdles, a budget cut threatened to erase everything in a single stroke. A few moments later, Michael emerged, his expression grim. He pulled Evelyn aside. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "They want to restructure the event. If we can't show a strong ROI for a musical performance, Harold is pushing to cut it altogether." Her heart sank. "Is there anything we can do?" she whispered. "I've invested so much into this, not just me, but you, Rebecca, Donna, so many others." Michael's jaw tightened. "I'm working on it, but be prepared. It might not be enough." That evening, Evelyn felt too restless to focus on her usual cleaning tasks. Every swirl of the mop, every hiss of the spray bottle seemed pointless if her big chance was going to be axed. Around 9 o'clock, she retreated to a dimly lit corridor, away from prying eyes, and sank onto a bench. She needed a moment to breathe, to gather her thoughts. Donna soon found her there, worry etched into her features. "I heard the news," she said gently, lowering herself onto the bench beside Evelyn. "Are you okay?" Evelyn laughed bitterly. "Not really. It's like the rug's being pulled out from under me." "Again?" Donna placed a comforting hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "I know it feels awful, but maybe it's not final yet. Michael's a capable CEO. He might still pull some strings. And if not, we'll figure something else out." "Like what?" Evelyn murmured, her voice hollow. "This was my one shot, and it's slipping away." Donna hesitated, searching for words. "Honey, you've already come so far, farther than you thought you could. Even if the showcase falls through, that doesn't change the fact that you can sing, that you want to sing. You can't let this place decide whether you live your dream." Evelyn appreciated Donna's encouragement, but the sense of helplessness persisted. The next day brought no solace. Another memo confirmed that multiple aspects of the showcase were being reduced or cancelled under the revised budget. Tensions soared among employees who had been looking forward to participating. Vanessa, the event coordinator, left a terse voicemail for Evelyn, apologizing that she couldn't guarantee a performance slot anymore. With just days left, Evelyn felt a crushing disappointment. She recalled the hours spent practicing, the nights of anxious anticipation. Now it seemed the corporate machine could casually discard all of that. Late that afternoon, Michael cornered her in the main lobby, away from the bustle of hurried staff. "I'm trying to negotiate a compromise," he said, voice low. "We might keep a smaller version of the event. I can't promise anything yet." Evelyn swallowed hard, tears stinging at the back of her eyes. "Thank you," she managed. "I know you're doing your best." That night, as she rode the bus home, the city lights no longer shimmered with possibility. She felt trapped, powerless against the corporate edict. The path she'd been so close to walking, one that led her to share her gift, appeared to be closing. She tried to ignore the ache in her chest, but it refused to subside. Clutching her phone, she stared at the blank screen, resisting the urge to text Donna or Lucas, or even Michael for more news. Instead, she simply closed her eyes and let the gentle rumble of the bus carry her away from a future that seemed heartbreakingly out of reach. 2 days passed with no definitive word on whether the musical segment of the showcase would proceed. Evelyn spent the time in a miserable fog, going through her cleaning routines like a ghost. Whispers in the hall confirmed that the event was still on, but drastically scaled down, an understated affair compared to the grand production originally planned. On the third afternoon, spurred by a jolt of determination, Evelyn decided she couldn't simply wait for a verdict. She reached out to Lucas Turner, the administrative assistant who had become a loyal friend. "I have an idea," she said, her voice quivering over the phone. "It might sound crazy, but I need your help." They met after work in an unused conference room on a quieter floor. Rebecca James joined them, having heard from Lucas that Evelyn wanted to make a last-ditch effort to keep her performance alive. "We're going to gather whoever will listen," Evelyn explained, nervously twisting her hands. "I'll sing for them, executives, employees, anyone we can round up. Let them see what it means before they cut me from the program." Lucas set his jaw. "We could call it a preview showcase," he suggested. "A quick, informal demonstration." Rebecca nodded. "Harold won't like being bypassed. But if we show genuine enthusiasm from staff, maybe that public support can shift the conversation." So they set the plan in motion. Emails and quiet hallway invitations went out. "Join us for a brief musical demonstration tomorrow at noon in Conference Room B." By mid-morning the next day, a small but diverse group gathered, executives, junior employees, and a handful of middle managers curious about what Evelyn had to offer. Uncertain if anyone from the higher echelons would actually appear, Evelyn stood at the front, a microphone in hand, her heart hammering. She spotted Michael Reed slip in quietly along the back wall. Next to him, Harold Zimmerman glowered, arms crossed. Evelyn's throat tightened, but she fought to steady herself. This was her moment to prove that her voice and her story mattered. Lucas tapped on a speaker, launching the instrumental track. Evelyn inhaled deeply, recalling every lesson from Mariah Brooks. Breathe low, project forward. Don't let your nerves clamp your throat. She began with soft, measured notes, then let her voice swell with the chorus. An anthem of hope and perseverance she'd chosen precisely for this occasion. The modest crowd listened intently. Some, who had only known Evelyn as the quiet cleaning staff member, looked visibly moved. As the song neared its emotional peak, she poured in every ounce of feeling she'd kept bottled up during the uncertainty of the past weeks. By the time the last note faded, many in the room erupted into spontaneous applause. A few even stood, clapping fervently. Harold Zimmerman, however, maintained an inscrutable face, offering only a polite tap of his fingertips against his wrist. Michael Reed, on the other hand, wore a faint smile, his eyes reflecting pride. His approval gave Evelyn a surge of gratitude. Rebecca took the floor next, speaking passionately about how Evelyn's performance symbolized the untapped potential in every department. She highlighted the morale boost that creative expression could bring, the sense of unity it fostered. Lucas chimed in with a personal anecdote of how hearing Evelyn practice inspired him to push past his own insecurities in the office. The small crowd murmured agreement. Amid the applause, Harold cleared his throat, voice cutting through the praise. "I'll admit," he began, "the performance was compelling, but keep in mind the budget constraints. Emotions aside, our bottom line requires a minimal event." He paused, glancing at Evelyn with a reserved nod. "Nonetheless, I see that staff sentiment favors including her. I'll reconsider the matter with the board." And with that, he departed, leaving a trail of uncertainty behind. Still, Evelyn's impromptu preview had sparked a wave of open support, especially from those who'd witnessed it firsthand. As people dispersed, many stopped to congratulate her, offering words of encouragement and thanks for the uplifting midday break. Michael approached last. He spoke low so only she could hear. "That was brave. You fought for your place. No matter what comes next, I'm proud you stood up for yourself." His voice faltered slightly, revealing a rare vulnerability. "It takes faith, in your voice, in who you are, to do that." Evelyn felt a shimmer of tears gathering as she accepted his praise. She realized that even if the corporate powers refused her in the end, she'd refused to stay silent. She had chosen to believe in her own worth, and that might be the greatest victory of all. The path was not guaranteed, but at least she hadn't let doubt rob her of this one crucial act of courage. 2 days before the event, a final announcement arrived via email. The showcase would go on, albeit in a tighter format, and Evelyn's solo act was now officially listed. The notice came with a surge of relief and renewed nerves. Her performance was slated to close the show, a prime slot that could either dazzle or disappoint. She spotted Donna in the basement supply room that afternoon, practically dancing with excitement. "They can't stop you now," she cried, enveloping Evelyn in a jubilant hug. "You're headlining, or close to it." Despite Donna's enthusiasm, Evelyn's stomach churned with both anticipation and dread. She texted Mariah Brooks, scheduling one last vocal coaching session. She also accepted Michael's offer for a few extra hours off her cleaning shift to focus on final rehearsals. Every hour felt precious. Every run-through of her chosen songs was a chance to refine phrasing, control her breathing, and calm her racing heart. Later that evening, she stood in a dedicated practice room the company had arranged, just a small space with acoustic panels, a piano and a microphone. Mariah guided her through warm-ups before they tackled the song. Evelyn's voice soared through the final chorus, carrying the confidence she had painstakingly built over the past weeks. When she finished, Mariah beamed. "That's it," she said softly, laying a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "Don't doubt yourself. You're ready." Outside in the hallway, Evelyn nearly ran into Vanessa Cobb, the event coordinator, who was reviewing a thick binder of scheduling notes. Vanessa nodded briskly in greeting. "We're finalizing the lighting cues for your act," she told Evelyn. "We'll do a quick run-through tomorrow. With the revised format, we don't have time for a full dress rehearsal, so be prepared." Evelyn swallowed. "Sure, I understand. Thank you." Vanessa's earlier aloofness had softened over time. She offered a small smile. "For what it's worth, I'm rooting for you." This event could use a little heart. That night, Evelyn rode the elevator up to the 15th floor, an unusual flutter dancing in her chest. She wasn't headed for her usual shift just yet. Michael had asked to speak briefly in his office. When she arrived, he was seated behind his glass desk, skyline glowing behind him. It struck her that their roles had shifted since the first time she stood in this room, trembling with anxiety. He gestured for her to sit. "I won't keep you long," he promised. "I just wanted to make sure you feel supported. If you need anything, technical help, Arrangement tweaks, moral support. You let me know. She noticed the subtle lines of fatigue around his eyes, a sign of the corporate battles he'd likely been fighting on her behalf. "You've done so much already," she replied gently. "I never expected any of this. I'm grateful." Michael's gaze turned warm. "Your courage made it possible. Don't forget that. We've secured a reduced but still meaningful event. People are curious. They want to see what you can bring to the stage." She offered a cautious smile. "I just hope I can live up to the moment." "Based on what I've heard, I have no doubt." He leaned back, taking a breath. "This is new for me too, fighting so openly for something that isn't just a bottom-line concern. But it feels right." A few minutes later, she left his office with a renewed sense of determination. She descended to the basement to begin her night's work, the shift somehow feeling lighter. Yes, she was still the same Evelyn, dressed in a company uniform, pushing her cleaning cart across silent floors. But she also carried within her the knowledge that in 2 short days, she'd stand on a stage in front of everyone. By the time her shift ended, fatigue tugged at her, but excitement thrummed in her veins. She peered into the empty auditorium on her way out, flicking on a single light to illuminate the stage. Walking to the edge, she stood quietly, imagining the seats filled, fear mingled with a growing sense of purpose. She wasn't just performing to prove Harold Zimmerman wrong or to impress Michael Reed. She was doing it to honor the part of herself she'd kept hidden for so long. Stepping back from the stage, she let the darkness wrap around her once more. Tomorrow would bring rehearsals, final checks, and nervous anticipation. But for tonight, she held onto the simple fact that she was closer than ever to embracing her dream. The stage was set, literally and figuratively, and all that remained was for her to deliver the performance of a lifetime. The morning of the showcase dawned with a crisp, bright sky that offered little comfort to Evelyn's fluttering nerves. She'd arrived earlier than anyone else, stepping into the grand auditorium while rows of empty seats still glowed faintly under subdued house lights. Her stomach twisted with anticipation. This was the day. Everything she had worked toward over the past weeks would be tested in a single performance. As hours ticked by, the space underwent a remarkable transformation. Lighting technicians fine-tuned spotlights, the audio team ran final checks, and ushers arranged programs on each seat. Donna, Gerard, Lucas, and Rebecca appeared intermittently, offering waves or encouraging thumbs up. Evelyn warmed up in a small dressing area off to the side, her heart pounding like a drum roll. She repeated the breathing exercises Mariah had taught her, trying to steady her nerves. She could sense the energy building as employees and a select group of external guests filled the auditorium. Whispered conversations, the rustle of suit jackets, and the hum of overhead lights merged into a low symphony of anticipation. Michael Reed, visibly occupied with last-minute logistics, paused briefly to greet her. "Remember what I said," he murmured. "You're here for a reason. Believe in that." The gentle warmth in his voice was enough to spark a flicker of confidence in her chest. The showcase began with short speeches from department heads, each highlighting various successes and future plans. Evelyn barely registered their words as she waited backstage, hidden from the audience. Vanessa Cobb, the event coordinator, periodically popped in to confirm the running order. She informed Evelyn that the performance was slotted as the finale. Everyone would be watching her with fresh eyes. When the moment came, her name was announced through the sound system, followed by polite applause. Evelyn swallowed hard. This is it, she thought. Stepping onto the stage, she was met with a sea of faces under the bright lights. Executives, co-workers, donors, potential clients. She caught a glimpse of Harold Zimmerman's expression, unreadable and stoic. Donna and Gerard were near the front, smiling through misty eyes. Michael stood to one side, hands clasped. His subtle nod reminded her that she wasn't alone. The spotlight made her feel simultaneously exposed and curiously focused. She cleared her throat, gripping the microphone with damp palms. The music track swelled in the speakers, the opening bars of the ballad she had chosen. Her first note emerged tentative, wavering with nerves, and for a fleeting second she feared she would break. But she forced her mind back to her weeks of practice, to Mariah's advice. Breathe low, trust your own sound. She moved into the verse, voice gathering strength with each line. The softness in the opening gave way to growing emotion, fueled by every setback and triumph that had led her here. She sang about hope and resilience, letting her voice climb steadily upward. Each note soared into the silent air, and she could feel the rapt attention of the audience. A few lines in, she risked a glance at the front row. Harold's brow was still furrowed, but he leaned in, as if unwillingly drawn to the melody. As she approached the song's climax, a moment of pure adrenaline took over. Her eyes drifted shut, and she let the final high note ring out with everything she had. Her lungs felt near to bursting, yet she pushed the sound forward until the accompaniment ceased. When the music stopped, an electric hush gripped the room, a single heartbeat of silence that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Then came the applause. Not the polite smattering she had braced for, but an uproar that swelled throughout the auditorium. Evelyn's eyes flew open. People rose to their feet, some cheering, others clapping vigorously. She spotted Donna wiping tears, Gerard pumping his fist, and Lucas whooping with unrestrained glee. Even Harold Zimmerman stood, clapping slowly, an expression of grudging respect on his face. A rush of relief and emotion washed over her, so strong her knees threatened to buckle. She managed a shaky bow, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. With the stage lights burning above her and a standing ovation roaring in her ears, Evelyn realized she had just crossed an invisible threshold. "I did it," her mind whispered. "I really did it." Evelyn slipped backstage as the host concluded the event, still breathless from the intensity of her performance. The thunderous applause echoed in her memory like distant waves, but now she stood in the wings, surrounded by humming stage lights and half-stacked chairs. Her body buzzed with leftover adrenaline, yet a curious calm began to seep in, a hush that often follows a great crescendo. She found a small stool in a corner behind the curtains and sank onto it, pressing a hand to her racing heart. Tears she'd held back now stung at her eyes. She couldn't stop replaying that final note, the one she had feared the most, ringing pure and true, so unlike the humiliating crack she once suffered in high school. This time, the note had lifted her above her insecurities, if only for a few transformative moments. As she sat there, the muffled sounds of departing audience members drifted through the auditorium doors. She picked up snippets of conversation, enthusiastic praise, awed comments about the cleaning lady who sang, and even some playful joking that maybe they should hire her as the official corporate vocalist. The realization that people were discussing her in admiration, rather than skepticism, filled her with a soft warmth she hadn't felt in years. She heard light footsteps and looked up to see Michael Reed approaching, carrying 2 bottles of water. He handed her one, his gaze kind. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "That was exactly what this place needed." Evelyn's cheeks heated under his compliment. "Thank you," she whispered, twisting the cap off the bottle. "I never thought I'd see the day." Michael's eyes reflected sincerity. "You proved to the entire company and to yourself what you're capable of." He paused, then added, "I'm sorry it had to be such a battle to get here." She sipped water to steady herself, mind flickering to all the arguments, the tension, the uncertainty. "It was worth it," she replied, voice a bit raw from singing, "even if it only lasted those few minutes on stage." Michael's brows drew together sympathetically. "I think this is just the beginning," he murmured, as if thinking aloud, but he didn't elaborate. Instead, he gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "I'll let you gather your thoughts. People will want to congratulate you soon." He disappeared back toward the main hall. Evelyn remained seated, absorbing the shift from loud applause to quiet reflection. The hush felt sacred in a way, allowing her to process the surge of relief, excitement, and lingering disbelief. She thought of her late mother, who used to cheer her on with unwavering faith. A wave of gratitude lapped at her, and she closed her eyes, silently dedicating this moment to the memory of those living room sing-alongs that once shaped her soul. When Donna and Gerard finally bustled backstage, faces bright with pride, Evelyn stood, feeling a mixture of elation and near exhaustion. Donna practically barreled into her with an embrace. "Honey, you have no idea how proud we are," she exclaimed. "It was beautiful, just beautiful." Gerard nodded in agreement. "I've never heard you sing like that." The whole place went silent first, like they were stunned. Then, boom, standing ovation. Evelyn laughed, a slight tremor in her voice. "I still can't quite believe it myself." In the flurry of conversation, Lucas materialized beside them, snapping selfies to capture the post-show glow. Evelyn obligingly posed, cheeks flushed, as he took a photo. The group chatted animatedly for several minutes, recounting small details of the performance and the audience's reactions. But after a while, they sensed that Evelyn needed space to absorb everything. One by one, they trickled out, leaving her to gather her belongings. Pausing by a long mirror near the stage entrance, Evelyn glimpsed herself. Her cheeks were still tinted from the effort of singing, hair slightly disheveled, eyes shining from tears of joy. She realized that her reflection bore no trace of that hesitant cleaner who once sang in secret. The hush that followed her final note had sealed a critical transformation. Like the quiet after a storm, it signaled that something important had shifted within. Pulling her jacket on, she stepped back into the auditorium's corridors, bracing for the next wave of faces and congratulations. Though the thunder of applause had faded, the echoes lingered in her heart, reminding her that the bravest part of any journey often lies in breaking the silence. By the next morning, word of Evelyn's triumphant performance spread across the company's intranet and email threads. Some employees posted glowing messages praising her voice. Others shared shaky phone recordings of her final notes. It astonished her to see people she had never met sending messages of congratulations and gratitude, some even saying her song rekindled their own long-buried passions. That afternoon, she found herself back in her modest apartment, sipping tea by a window that overlooked the bustle of Chicago's streets. In her hands lay a stack of printed emails from colleagues and a few external clients who had attended. Reading through their words, inspiring, emotional, made me cry. She felt as if she'd awakened something beyond just her own dormant dreams. The door buzzed, cutting through her thoughts. When she answered, she discovered Donna standing there, smiling widely. "Brought you lunch," Donna announced, lifting a paper bag that smelled of hot sandwiches. "And I want to see that proud face of yours." They settled at Evelyn's small kitchen table, unwrapping turkey melts while the midday sun cast a warm glow over them. Donna looked around the Spartan living space. Bare walls, a second-hand sofa, an old lamp. "You gotta decorate this place, Ton," she teased. "Feels like you never let yourself get comfortable." Evelyn shrugged, glancing around. "I guess I've never felt settled. Like I was waiting for life to start, you know." Donna's gaze softened. "Well, maybe it's starting now. You're different lately, not timid, just open. Confident." Evelyn considered that. She thought of how, even during her cleaning shift the previous night, She no longer felt compelled to shrink into the background. Some employees approached her to express gratitude, to chat about music, or share their own creative pursuits. She found herself listening with genuine excitement, no longer fearful that an idle conversation might threaten her job. "I do feel different," she admitted, brushing crumbs from her uniform. "After singing in front of everyone, facing the fear, and realizing I didn't crumble, it's like I reclaimed something I'd lost." Donna nodded sagely. "That's what we call rebirth, sweetie. Sometimes it's big and loud, sometimes small and quiet, but it changes us forever." They passed the next hour in comfortable conversation, with Donna reminiscing about her own lost dream of dancing. She insisted that Evelyn had sparked hope in countless people around the building. "I see it in their eyes," Donna said. "What you did was about more than just a song. It reminded them we're all more than our job titles." By the time Donna left, the sense of renewal had taken firmer root in Evelyn's heart. She felt compelled to share this new energy, to give back some of the encouragement she'd received. That evening, she began researching community choirs and local open mic nights in the city. She also rediscovered an old spiral notebook where, years ago, she had scribbled lines of a half-finished song. Before bed, she flipped through those pages, reading the lyrics she'd once felt too insecure to show anyone. They spoke of finding hope in mundane routines, of believing in small miracles. Now the words resonated differently, no longer just a fantasy, but a possible reality. Back at work the next day, everything looked the same. The fluorescent-lit hallways, the polished floors, the silent offices after hours. But Evelyn navigated them with a lighter step. She chatted freely with Lucas, who teased her about becoming famous, and joked with Gerard that next time she'd expect him to join a duet. In a passing moment, Evelyn caught her reflection in the large picture windows. Her posture had straightened. Her eyes shone with a confidence she barely recognized. The old version of herself, the one who believed her dreams weren't worth pursuing, seemed distant. Through the crucible of fear, corporate politics, and that single spotlit performance, she had emerged with a renewed sense of self. It wasn't just that the company finally saw her for more than her uniform. She saw herself differently, and that, she realized, was the core of true rebirth. A week after the showcase, Michael Reed invited Evelyn to meet him at a cozy neighborhood cafe on the near north side of Chicago, a far cry from the formal corporate spaces she was used to. She arrived in a casual blouse and jeans, feeling strangely liberated without her cleaning uniform. Warm light illuminated exposed brick walls, and the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with chatter from patrons seated at small wooden tables. Michael waved her over to a corner table where two steaming cups waited. "Thanks for coming," he greeted, a friendly smile easing across his face. "I know you've been busy. I figured we could talk outside the office, where it's less formal." Evelyn slid into the chair opposite him, taking in the soft ambient music playing overhead. "It's nice," she said, glancing around. "Feels comfortable." He nodded, stirring cream into his coffee. "I wanted to see how you're doing after the event. Also, there's something I'd like your input on. The response to your performance was tremendous, and not just internally. A few philanthropic organizations reached out to the company, intrigued by our approach of highlighting employee talent. They're discussing a charity concert partnership." Her eyes widened. "A charity concert? As in performing again?" Michael flashed a slight grin. "Potentially, yes. They'd like to feature inspiring stories, including yours. We'd have to iron out details, timing, location, promotion. But if you're interested, we could showcase your voice alongside other local talents. Proceeds would benefit some community outreach programs." Evelyn's heart gave a small leap. Singing at a charity event sounded thrilling, meaningful even, but also terrifying. She sipped her cappuccino to buy time while she thought, I mean, I'd love the idea of helping a good cause through music. But what about my job? My schedule? Michael leaned forward, his tone gentle. We'd work around it. This wouldn't be an every night kind of thing. Just a one-off event or maybe a short series. You'd still be employed, but with flexible hours if needed. The mention of remaining on the cleaning staff gave her pause. She appreciated the security, but part of her wondered if it was time to fully embrace a new direction. Yet she wasn't sure she could live off singing alone. She voiced her concern, fidgeting with her cup's handle. I'm torn. I've never done anything like this. I'm no professional. He chuckled softly. Professional just means you get paid for it. You absolutely could be, if that's what you want. Then his expression grew thoughtful. It's up to you, of course. The company's behind you, but not to push you into anything you're not ready for. She stared into her cappuccino foam. Part of her longed to leap at the chance. Another part whispered it's risky. What if you fail? Then she remembered how many times she'd already dared to step beyond her comfort zone in recent weeks. I need to think about it, she said finally, meeting his eyes. But it's exciting to consider. Michael nodded in understanding. Take all the time you need. There's no rush. I just wanted you to know the door is open. They shifted into more casual conversation, how the corporate offices were adjusting post-event, new initiatives on the horizon, and random jokes about office gossip. Evelyn found herself smiling easily. She sensed a layer of connection that went beyond their work relationship, though neither spelled it out. A subtle closeness, built on mutual respect and perhaps something deeper, fluttered beneath the surface. As they finished their coffees, Michael checked his watch. I have another meeting soon, but I'm glad we got to talk here, away from all the suits and ties. He paused, looking at her earnestly. Whatever you decide, I want you to know I admire your courage. You remind me that there's more to life than spreadsheets. Evelyn felt warmth bloom in her chest. Thank you, she said, rising from her seat. Not just for the coffee, but for everything. Outside, the sun shone brightly on the busy Chicago street. Evelyn tightened her light jacket, 1,000 new possibilities swirling in her mind. A charity concert, a more flexible job arrangement, perhaps even the potential for a deeper bond with Michael, if life allowed. All of it felt both exhilarating and unnerving. Hailing a cab, she realized that just as the company had a future to plan, so did she. Only this time, for the first time, she believed it could involve standing on a stage by choice, singing not just for survival or for fleeting relief, but for an enduring sense of purpose. 2 weeks later, Evelyn stood in front of a modest community theater, heart fluttering. The building's brick facade bore a simple banner, Benefit Concert for Chicago Outreach. Stacks of flyers advertised an evening of musical performances and stories of personal triumph. She had agreed to join the lineup, her name listed alongside local singers and bands who volunteered to support the charity. Unlike the corporate showcase, this audience included families from different walks of life, local press, and representatives from philanthropic groups. Michael Reed was there too, seated quietly among donors and company staff who'd come to show their support. Donna, Gerard, Lucas, and Rebecca had also arrived, saving seats in the middle row. Their excited whispers and occasional waves steadied Evelyn's nerves more than they could ever know. Backstage, she checked her reflection in a mirror framed by round light bulbs. An almost movie-like setting that seemed both surreal and affirming. Her outfit was simple but elegant, a flowing navy dress, comfortable yet presentable. She ran through breathing exercises, recalling Mariah's advice. Tonight, she wasn't performing for a board of executives. She was singing to raise funds for underprivileged communities. The cause added both weight and meaning to her performance. When it was her turn, Evelyn stepped onto the small stage. Warm spotlights illuminated her, and applause rippled through the crowd. She opened her set with a song she'd worked on with Mariah, an uplifting piece about turning pain into hope. Each note carried the authenticity of her own journey, from those lonely corridors of Arcadia Tower to the hush of the corporate auditorium. As her voice rose, she glimpsed Michael leaning forward, a softness in his eyes that spoke volumes. She poured her heart into every lyric, conscious that her voice now served a bigger purpose than just personal validation. The audience, many of whom knew nothing of her backstory, seemed captivated nonetheless. Some gently swayed, others closed their eyes in silent reflection. She concluded that song to generous applause, then paused at the microphone. Clearing her throat, she introduced her second piece. I wrote this when I was younger, but never dared to share it until now. It's about finding hope in unexpected places. She saw her old spiral notebook in her mind, the one where these lyrics had first been scribbled years ago. Her voice trembled slightly on the opening lines, raw with personal meaning. But she pressed on, each phrase underscoring how one can be trapped by fear, yet still yearn for something bigger. Halfway through, she glanced at Donna, who brushed away tears. By the final chorus, the melody swelled, carrying a promise of renewal. Silence held for a breath after she finished, just like at the corporate event. Then came a wave of applause so strong it nearly made her knees quake. Emotion choked her. This was the second time in a month she'd faced an audience and felt nothing but acceptance. She bowed, tears glimmering in her eyes. When the show wrapped up, Evelyn joined the other performers in the lobby, where attendees mingled, chatted, and made donations to the charity. People approached to congratulate her, praising her voice, her courage, and her authenticity. One older woman confided that Evelyn's lyrics reminded her of her own struggles starting over in life. A teenage girl timidly asked for singing tips, eyes shining with admiration. Soon, Michael found his way through the crowd. He offered Evelyn a gentle smile. "That was remarkable," he said. "I've seen you sing twice now, and each time I'm more convinced you have a gift for touching hearts." She felt a flush spread across her cheeks. "I'm still figuring it all out, whether I keep working at Arcadia Tower or go full tilt with music. But nights like this, it feels like I'm doing something that matters." Michael nodded, stepping closer to avoid the buzz of nearby conversations. "You're allowed to have more than one path. If anyone's shown me that, it's you. You gave me a new perspective on what truly motivates people. Not just numbers, but genuine human connection." A rush of warmth spread through her. She thought of how they had both changed since that first night he overheard her humming alone, how obstacles and prejudices had pushed them into a fierce struggle. Now, in a small theatre, raising funds for people in need, she recognized the profound reward in living one's truth, no matter how improbable it once seemed. As the evening wound down, Donna, Gerard, and Lucas swept her into a group hug, practically bouncing with excitement. Rebecca handed her a small bouquet of wildflowers. Amid the laughter, music, and cause for celebration, Evelyn felt tears of gratitude fill her eyes again. This is the real reward, she realized, not just performing in front of people, but acknowledging that she'd finally embraced her authentic self. And in that delicate moment, filled with applause, rustling flowers, and heartfelt congratulations, Evelyn Barnes knew she had discovered the gift of a lifetime, the courage to be heard and to use her voice to bridge hearts, spark hope, and begin a future that was finally hers to shape. Evelyn Barnes returned to Arcadia Tower a few days after the charity concert, still processing how much her life had changed in such a short span. The sleek glass doors and polished floors looked unchanged, but her perspective felt entirely new. When she arrived for her usual cleaning shift, wearing the familiar navy uniform and comfortable sneakers, The security guard at the reception area greeted her with a warm grin. "You're back!" he exclaimed, tipping his hat. "Heard all about that concert. Congratulations, Miss Barnes. Folks can't stop talking about it." Evelyn blushed at the recognition. She tried to shrug it off with a modest nod, yet inside she felt an unshakable sense of pride. Strolling through the lobby, she noticed other employees offering respectful waves. People who once overlooked her presence, but now paused to acknowledge the singer behind the mop and broom. Donna Martin, standing by the service elevator with her robust frame and friendly smile, gave Evelyn a quick, affectionate side hug. "You've been out a few days for that community event, but it felt like weeks," she teased. "We missed our little celebrity." Evelyn laughed softly. "Celebrity might be stretching it," she answered, pressing the elevator button. "But it's good to be back." As they stepped inside, Donna leaned closer. "So, how was it? I saw pictures on social media." "Looked like you were on top of the world." A warm flutter filled Evelyn's chest, recalling the applause and bright stage lights at the community theatre. "It was wonderful, nerve-wracking, but so rewarding." She hesitated, then admitted, "It made me think about what's next, how to balance this job and the growing opportunities to sing." They arrived at the basement level, where cleaning supplies were stored. Evelyn took her cart, double-checking the inventory of paper towels and disinfectants. Despite the routine, a lingering excitement coursed through her. Even the mundane hallway lights and the faint hum of ventilation felt oddly reassuring, reminding her that she was free to create her own path forward. She began her rounds on the 15th floor, collecting trash and tidying offices, occasionally humming a tune under her breath. At one point, Lucas Turner poked his head out from an office doorway. "Hey, star performer," he said, grinning. "Got a minute to chat?" She paused with a trash bag in hand. "Sure. Everything okay?" Lucas nodded. "Just wanted to mention a local business group that's hosting a luncheon and might feature live music. They asked me if you'd be willing to perform, paid gig this time. I said I'd let you know." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. Another performance. And possibly earning money for her singing. She realized how quickly her world was expanding, with each new opportunity nudging her toward a path she once deemed impossible. "That's amazing," she murmured, glancing down at her uniform. "I'll think about it." The conversation left her both exhilarated and slightly overwhelmed. She resumed her shift, polishing glass doors and vacuuming corridors, all the while turning over possibilities in her mind. Could she manage multiple performances while keeping her cleaning job? Did she want to reduce her hours or even leave this role behind entirely? She wasn't sure yet. Something about the stability of Arcadia Tower felt like a safety net, even though her heart pulled her toward a musical future. Late in the evening, as the building emptied out, Evelyn ascended to the top floor just to stand by the large windows overlooking the city skyline. The glow of Chicago's lights reminded her of how far she'd come, how, not long ago, she'd hidden in corners, afraid to sing above a whisper. Now, people actually sought her out to perform. Michael Reed's office door was open, his desk lamp illuminating a tidy surface. He caught sight of her and waved. She ventured inside for a brief moment, smiling. "Didn't mean to intrude, just finishing up." He set aside a stack of reports. "No intrusion at all. How are you feeling about everything?" Evelyn inhaled the faint scent of coffee lingering in the air. "Grateful, mostly. A little confused about what comes next, but definitely grateful." Michael nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Take your time to decide how to shape this new chapter. You've earned that right." She thanked him, then headed back to gather her supplies. As she boarded the elevator to go home, she realized that while her daily responsibilities remained, she herself was irrevocably changed. The building lights and corridors no longer felt like barriers. Rather, they were markers of a journey she chose to walk with head held high. In that silent moment, Evelyn understood she could embrace her old routine without ever reverting to the person she used to be. The uniform and job title hadn't changed, but something far more important had: her belief in her own worth. And that, she sensed, would make all the difference in the days to come. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn found herself juggling a new rhythm. By day, she met with local musicians, explored modest performance opportunities, and practiced vocal techniques under Mariah Brooks's guidance. By evening, she returned to her cleaning shift at Arcadia Tower, still a dependable figure in the silent hallways. The balancing act felt both thrilling and tiring. She'd rise early to answer emails from people who heard about her recent shows. A small group of office workers had even invited her to sing at an upcoming holiday party. Then she'd have a quick lunch, dash off to a borrowed rehearsal space, and warm up her voice under Mariah's watchful ear. Only then would she don her uniform and clock in for her cleaning job at 5 in the evening. Donna, noticing how little downtime Evelyn had, often urged her to take breaks. "Honey, you can't burn the candle at both ends," she warned one night in the staff lounge. "You need rest or you'll lose your voice." Donna's tone carried genuine concern, like a mother looking out for a child. Evelyn nodded, promising she'd pace herself. The biggest shift, however, was how people at Arcadia Tower treated her. While she still performed her cleaning duties thoroughly, double-checking every office's trash bin, wiping down surfaces, some employees hesitated to ask her for basic tasks, worried they might be infringing on her new status as a singer. She found it both amusing and touching, repeatedly assuring them she was more than happy to do her job. One evening, she was polishing the glass doors outside the executive suite when Harold Zimmerman passed by. He paused momentarily, fiddling with his tie. "I heard you sang at a local business luncheon last weekend," he said, voice gruff as usual. "I suppose that was successful?" His posture still seemed stiff, but Evelyn sensed a softened edge. "It went well," she replied, cloth in hand. "We raised funds for a local mentorship program." Harold simply nodded, murmuring something about corporate social responsibility before walking off. In that brief exchange, Evelyn felt a hint of respect that hadn't existed before, a subtle acknowledgement that her endeavors extended beyond trivial hobbies. She went on to tidy the 15th floor, passing by an open conference room where Lucas and a few co-workers were gathered. They waved her in, unveiling a birthday cake for one of the team members. Without hesitation, Evelyn joined their impromptu celebration. They teased her into humming the happy birthday tune, prompting laughter and applause. That simple moment reminded her that music had already woven itself into her new, everyday life. Later, while she restocked supplies in the storage closet, she found Michael Reed waiting with an affectionate smile. "I was wondering if you'd be interested in a small staff initiative," he said, producing a flyer. "The company wants to host a weekly workshop highlighting personal talents, art, crafting, music, for staff who want to learn. I thought you could lead a short singing workshop." Evelyn's eyes widened. "Me? Teach singing? I'm not sure I'm qualified." Michael's expression held patient encouragement. "You don't have to be a formal teacher, just someone willing to share tips and foster a supportive environment. I've seen how people light up when you sing. Maybe you can help them find their own voices." Touched, she agreed to think about it. The idea felt both daunting and oddly exhilarating. She reflected back to her own journey, from secret hallway singer to someone capable of inspiring others. If her voice had granted her so much courage, perhaps it could do the same for others. That night, after her shift ended, she left Arcadia Tower with her cleaning cart neatly stowed away, a small list of potential workshop ideas tucked in her pocket. The crisp night air greeted her as she headed to the bus stop, fatigue tugging at her bones, but satisfaction glowing in her heart. She felt the tug of the new routine, the juggling act of day and evening roles, pull at her edges. Yet she also sensed she was precisely where she needed to be, forging a path that melded her old responsibilities with the exhilarating promise of what lay ahead. Another step, she thought, on a journey no one could have predicted, herself included. 1 month later, the small workshop Evelyn agreed to lead officially began. Late on a Thursday afternoon, she gathered in a modest break room with a handful of co-workers who were curious about exploring their vocal potential. Most were novices, accountants, administrative assistants, and fellow maintenance staff, each with a hidden desire to sing but lacking guidance or confidence. Donna and Gerard helped arrange the chairs in a loose circle. A portable keyboard, borrowed from one of the office managers, stood at the front. Evelyn felt a nervous flutter, recalling her first shaky attempts at singing publicly. Now, she was the one encouraging others to step beyond their comfort zones. "Welcome, everyone," she said, smiling at the small group. "I'm no professional coach, but I've learned a few things that might help you find your voice. And more importantly, I know how it feels to be afraid." She started the session with simple breathing exercises, something she'd absorbed from Mariah Brooks. The participants giggled as they filled their lungs and exhaled dramatically. After a few playful rounds, they settled into a gentle humming exercise. Evelyn took note of each person's hesitation, spotting the same nervousness she once felt. She used that recognition to guide her words, offering reassurance that they were all here to learn. Halfway through, an older gentleman from finance, Mr. Henderson, stepped forward to attempt a short verse from a folk song. His trembling voice cracked on the higher notes, but Evelyn gently applauded him. "You have a warm tone," she said softly. "Focus on controlling your breath. Don't hold it too tight." By the end of the second run, his voice steadied and the others clapped in encouragement. The energy in the room lifted. People cheered each other on, shared tips, laughed over small mistakes. It reminded Evelyn of the camaraderie she'd found with Donna and Lucas, that sense of acceptance that had propelled her forward. In that moment, she realized teaching others ignited a different kind of joy. She wasn't just performing. She was fostering a space where it was safe to be vulnerable. Michael Reed made a quiet appearance near the doorway, arms folded in a relaxed stance. He observed with a faint smile as Evelyn guided the group through basic scale work. She caught his eye, and a warm confidence flowed through her. He offered a small nod before slipping away, as if recognizing this was her moment to lead, uninterrupted. When the workshop ended, participants thanked her profusely, with some vowing to practice daily. Mr. Henderson joked that he'd better watch out or he might end up singing to his cat. Evelyn packed up, heart brimming with gratitude. She paused in the hallway, reflecting on how improbable it once seemed that she, a cleaning staff member, would be hosting a singing group within the same building she once navigated in near silence. Donna ambled over, arms crossed with a proud grin. "Look at you, teacher," she teased gently, "helping folks find their voices. That's real magic." Evelyn blushed. "I'm just paying forward what I learned. Remember how scared I was to sing in front of anyone? If someone had nudged me sooner, maybe I wouldn't have hidden for so long." They walked together toward the service elevator. Donna patted her shoulder, voice turning serious. "Sometimes we have to wait for the right time and the right people to step in. You're showing them what's possible when they dare to try. That's huge." Evelyn couldn't deny the sense of purpose that came from sharing her newfound wisdom. Each workshop session felt like a small victory against the fear that once held her back. And the more she taught, the more she believed that every individual possessed a unique melody, waiting for permission to be released. Later that night, Evelyn left the building, bag slung over her shoulder. The city lights sparkled, reminiscent of her own first performance in the corporate auditorium. She was no longer just the woman who found her voice, she was helping others do the same. Strolling to the bus stop, she felt a gentle breeze carry the hope that, through these sessions, a chorus of hidden talents might soon echo through Arcadia Tower. Shared wisdom was a potent force, she realized. It had the power to unravel fear, build confidence, and knit together a community where every voice mattered. A few weeks after Evelyn's singing workshop became a regular fixture at Arcadia Tower, she received an unexpected email from the marketing department. They wanted to host a year-end gathering that showcased not only corporate achievements, but also the personal growth stories of employees. They asked if she'd be willing to assemble a small choir of workshop participants to perform a holiday piece. She nearly gasped. This meant the entire group would share the stage, singing for everyone. Excitement rippled through the workshop. Each participant brought new energy, practicing holiday tunes that Evelyn and Lucas arranged on short notice. Donna volunteered to handle the logistical details, reserving the auditorium, coordinating rehearsals, while Gerard took it upon himself to manage crowd control on the big day. Everyone pitched in, determined to make this performance something special. On the evening of the event, the Arcadia Tower Auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Twinkling lights and winter-themed decorations sparkled across the stage. Company executives, staff members, and even some guests from partner organizations filled the seats. Evelyn stood backstage with her makeshift choir, a mixture of accountants, assistants, and other employees clutching sheet music. Their faces shone with a mixture of nerves and excitement. "Remember," Evelyn whispered, scanning their anxious expressions, "we're doing this together. No one has to sing perfectly, just sing honestly." She glanced at Mr. Henderson, who still looked petrified. "Take a breath and trust yourself." They stepped onto the stage in a modest formation. The crowd hushed. Evelyn, positioned front and center, gave a small nod to the piano accompanist, and the opening notes of a festive carol drifted through the speakers. The first voices rose timidly, but soon found harmony. Evelyn's heart swelled as she watched each co-worker conquer their fear, letting the music unite them in a single uplifting sound. Across the auditorium, she spotted Michael Reed standing near Harold Zimmerman. Michael's gaze shone with encouragement, and even Harold wore a soft, if slightly guarded, smile. The song reached its joyful chorus, and Evelyn led the group with clear, confident notes that echoed her own journey from hidden singer to guiding voice. When the final line faded, the applause was immediate and heartfelt. The group members exchanged stunned grins, some nearly in tears at the overwhelming support. Evelyn felt her own eyes burn with emotion, remembering how solitary her singing once was. Now, she was part of something bigger, a chorus that harmonized not just in melody, but in purpose. After the performance, employees and guests mingled in the auditorium lobby. Decorations and refreshments added to the celebratory atmosphere. As Evelyn grabbed a cup of warm cider, she found Michael approaching with a quiet smile. "That was incredible," he said, his voice sincere. "You not only sing beautifully, you inspired others to discover their own voices." She felt a rush of warmth. "I never imagined I'd lead a choir," she said, "but seeing everyone step out of their shells was indescribable." He nodded, gaze steady. "Don't forget that you led them here. You had the courage first, and they followed. That's leadership in its purest form." Evelyn smiled, a gentle flush rising to her cheeks. She recalled how, not too long ago, her biggest ambition was to keep her cleaning job without attracting notice. Now, she was recognized for both her singing and her ability to inspire. The building that once felt like a maze of locked doors had become a place of transformation. not just for her, but for everyone open to growth. A short distance away, Donna, Gerard, and Lucas beckoned Evelyn over, eager to celebrate. Rebecca James from HR also joined, praising the positive shift in company morale. Conversations buzzed about new collaborations, more volunteer events, and how music seemed to connect people across departments. Everywhere, Evelyn saw faces bright with enthusiasm and hope. Even Harold ventured a few steps nearer, offering a restrained but genuine handshake. "Very well done," he remarked simply. In his eyes, she read something akin to respect. Though he quickly turned to discuss budget matters with a colleague, some habits never changed. As the evening wound down, Evelyn found herself standing by the tall windows that overlooked Chicago's sprawling lights. She felt Michael's presence beside her and turned, offering a grateful smile. Neither spoke for a moment, both absorbing the view and the enormity of what had transpired. "It's amazing how a voice can bring people together," Evelyn said at last, her words soft. A month ago, these colleagues barely knew each other. Now they're a choir. Michael reached out, gently brushing his hand against hers in a gesture of quiet solidarity. "You helped unite their destinies by sharing your gift, and I think it's only the beginning." Evelyn glanced once more at the city lights, remembering every corridor she'd cleaned while humming in secret, the first time Michael overheard her, and the battle she fought to claim her right to sing. She recalled how her voice had grown from a lonely echo to a unifying force, weaving through hearts and inspiring courage in unexpected ways. In that radiant moment, Evelyn sensed a profound closure and a new beginning. Her future lay wide open, a blend of music, mentorship, and genuine connections. She and Michael, along with all those she had inspired, stood at the threshold of possibilities no one could have foretold. And as she gazed at the shimmering skyline, she savored the knowledge that her voice had not only changed her own destiny, it had quietly begun to transform the lives of everyone brave enough to listen. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.